was the first time you contemplated suicide?
Wow. Like 1 year ago. There's this day that I'd just gone and I was in the house alone. My kids had gone to school. And I said, I think this is enough. And I actually went to a hardware and I bought a rope. And I tried it on. And let me tell you, I even fell down. And from that day, I remember in the evening when I fell down, my son came, he's called Anna, and he asked me, Mom, are you okay? And I looked at him and I started crying. I cried and I held on to my boy. I cried like for 30 minutes or so. And this is something that I've been fighting from 2017 to 2022. Being in the media, there's this version of us that we want to portray out there that we are okay. We are not okay. We are not okay. And it is okay to say that you're not okay. Because I've been in this journey for many years. I'm the first one in a family of 3. And sometimes I feel like there's this burden that is bestowed on us as firstborns because you're supposed to make sure everybody is okay. But are you okay? I was raised up by a single parent. I was raised up in Wanjiku slums. And for those who know me, they can tell you my mother was a wrestler. We would play outside, and actually when the kids see her coming, they would tell me, fast, your mother. So they were actually the custodian to make sure that my mother had not seen me. I would rush into the house, make sure that I wash my legs so that when my mother comes, she's oh, you've showered, or everything is okay. And this is a slum that, for those who understand Wanjiku, I don't want to say that it's a bad slum, but there are so many things that are associated with Wanjiku. So my mother had to make sure she was a soldier, a mother, a police. I would say like that. You do a mistake and my mother will beat you, I'm telling you, until you look at her and ask, is this my mother really? I think she was changed. It was hard for us, the 3 of us. My father left when I was in grade 3. My mother moved us from Wanjiku to Jericho, where the brother was living. Living with the brother again was very hard. We had to move again from Jericho to Wanjiku. So it was hard, at some point, I was not able to go to school for almost 2 years. I'd stayed home because my mother was not able to pay for my school fees. By then, the local government by then, or the city council of Nairobi, the payment was not that good. So and being alone as a mother, so she was not able. And remember, my mother was the last born in a family of 10. She lost the entire family. She was all alone. By the time my grandma died, my mother was in grade 2, so she had to move to a children's home.
What happened that
I didn't meet my grandmother, but I'm told my grandmother went into depression. Then she was an alcoholic. So you see, this is a chain of things. So when she passed on, even my uncles, who are now my brothers, my brother, the brother to my mother, they were not able to take care of my mother, to my grandmother. So when she passed on, my mother was taken by Individual Children's Home, so she lived there for some time. So you can see this is a chain of series of things that are happening in our family. My mother lost the entire family. The mother died. She was raised in a children's home. Then she comes, find a man who's supposed to be her protector, the father figure, the mother figure. And this didn't happen. I remember when I was in grade 3 before my father left, my father came home and she had bought a very big knife. And she would say it, and I would say it in Kiswahili, leo nakuua we mwanamke. And up to date, these voices rang in my brain. That day my mother was beaten I have never forgotten, and I was in grade 3. My mother was beaten proper. She broke her leg, her arm. And it continued. This was a series of many things that happened, to the extent that even when my mother was being beaten when we were small, the neighbors were not coming. Wamezoea hivyo. So it became a pattern for my mother. Until one day, when my father came with that knife and she said, "Wewe mwanamke nitakuua." It's just something came to me. For those who know Huruma Estate, we were living in Huruma Estate by then. I'm telling you, I ran from our house up to the police station. There's a ground there there is a very big ground that you have to pass. And it was around 9:30.
Morning or evening?
At night. I had to run from our house to the Huruma police station and go and report that my father wants to kill my mother. Do you know what the police told me? Hiyo ni mambo ya nyumbani. Wewe mtoto kimbia nyumbani uende nyumbani.
Yes.
So I had to come back running and crying so that I make sure that my mother is not killed. That night, my mother broke her arm and her leg. The next day, a friend of my mother, I remember her today, she was living in Dandora. She came, took my mother. And from that day, my mother and our 2 sisters moved from that house. We went to a place called Lunga Lunga. We lived there for almost a year until my mother was back again. Then we came back to my jungle again. And from that day, I would tell you that I saw a very big shift in my mother's life. She wanted to shield us. I did not have a boyfriend until I was in Form 3. And having a boyfriend was even a problem. Our last born would always blackmail me.
And I imagine living there.
Yeah, blackmail me. Nilikuwa ukiongea na ule kijana nitaambia mama, imagining what your mother would do to you. You will do anything that your sister wants. Unataka nikufanyie? Unataka nikufanyie? So that your mother is not told that you have a boyfriend. So this kept on going until one day when I had just cleared Form 4 and I met this man. And I said, "Is it okay for me to tell my mother that I have a boyfriend?" And he said, "No, I'm not ready to tell my mother I have a boyfriend." Why? Because I can imagine having a boyfriend is what my mother went through. That is the picture that I had. This is a man who's going to beat me. This is a man who... So, I had my own issues, fights that I've been fighting, even up to now as a woman. And I can tell you, I'm a single parent, not because it's the father to my children mistake. It is because of me.
Let's get into that part. I know we have so many stories to debunk as we go along, but let's get into that part of why do you feel that, so many of us who are divorced always look at the other person as a cause of a separation or for people going their separate ways. Why do you feel that you are the cause of that?
Well, I feel that I'm the cause because this is a woman who's so very much deeply wounded inside. This is a woman who's seen men with this picture of men are meant to beat women. Then this is a woman first who wants to make sure that everybody is okay. That means my siblings, my mother. So for me, I've been fighting that to the extent that I would have a man in my life, but when my mother calls me, even if it's at noon, even if it's at night, I wake up and go. I don't care whether I have a man in the house or not. To me, it meant that my mother and my siblings come first, the rest, they don't exist. And that's why when you see my younger sisters, their children are grown-ups. My children are very young. People ask me, "Are you the first one here? Why are your children smaller?" Because I had to make sure that everybody was okay, even their children are okay, then me. But who asked me if I'm okay? So I met a man who was a very good man. But me, I was fighting my own battles. To the extent that I would see that you are an obstacle for my happiness. How? You get? So one day I just woke up and I told him, "I need you to go. And if you don't go, I'm going." I just flipped. And that is how I became a single parent after the baby.
How many years has it been now?
Since 2013.
2013.
Yes.
So we would say it's 10 years.
10 years, yes.
Oh, it's about the same as I.
Yeah.
But now the question is, between 2013 and now, I know healing is a journey. It doesn't happen in a day.
It is.
And until, first of all, you identify the demons that you're fighting and the areas that you need healing in, then can you take a step towards the healing? So when it comes to just that particular part of relationship, do you feel there's a growth that you have experienced? There's a healing that... Have you identified the areas that you need healing? Have you gone a step further to heal these areas? And what have you done to bring healing to yourself? Because we're all fighting.
Of course.
We're all fighting demons
daily.
Yeah.
Well, to me, I would say healing is a process. I'm still going towards it.
Yeah.
I would say that I was privileged to have good friends. Good friends who've stuck with me since 2017 when I lost my mother through cancer. And I can say that I've seen the hand of God. First, it's a hand of God because I've been through a lot. 2017, as I told you, I lost my mother through cancer. I lost my job. Had taken a loan from the circle. I had to get away with my car. And this is the year that I actually went to Nairobi River and I actually threw myself inside the Nairobi River. It's only my sister and I were there. And I said, Vero, I think it's done. Because this is somebody that I knew who would... my mother is somebody who would tell you it is okay. And even her, she's not okay. Actually, the job is lost. It's okay. You can go to the market and sell mangoes. Going to school, having a degree is nothing. So, this is somebody that I knew who would always have my back. And she's gone. Where do I run to? Who do I go to? So I tell myself to never believe. Jesus. Myself. Yeah. And I'm telling you, from that day, I've had people, even when I don't talk to them in the next 2 hours, like daily, they would call me, where are you? What are you doing? And you're with who? I'm with Alice. Give me Alice. I want to talk to Alice. So I've had people who've walked with me, Jegani, people that I can say, it's taken them the hand of God to see that there's something in this girl which is, we need to bring it up. And from that day I said, I'm a mental advocate because I know mental health is everything and anything.
Let's discover these stories as we go along. There's much more to debunk. And I'm glad that we're opening up concerning it. Sometimes I come from a village, I think you're also from a similar village, where you're not supposed to speak about challenges because we're going to embarrass people. But the reality is that if we don't start speaking about these things, we're going to lose our loved ones. And it's not just the young people who are struggling. People in their 80s, 70s, 60s, 50s, 40s. Now imagine the teenagers who are now experiencing divorce more. Wars, they're the grass in wars of co-parenting. There is so much that we need to speak about. In fact, when I think about workplaces, I worked for an organization that I loved. But unfortunately, what was going on in my house at the time was causing me not to perform very well in my workplace. And I remember we would fight with my supervisor. It was bad. It was bad. So I'm trying to balance my workplace. I'm trying to balance my family. There's so much going on around me. And one of them had to give. I remember we lived in Utheru. And that time we didn't have the beautiful roads that have been put in place. Unaona venye malori huwa zinateremka hivi. I just wanted one bag. Bah! Gone. And I started thinking, but then I would like to be pretty when they bury me. I'm like, okay, maybe that might not work. I need to look for another way to get rid of this person. That's not very long ago, by the way. That was 2010. I wanted to die. And that was not the first time I wanted to die. And I could justify that my children will be better off without me. I could justify that the grandmother from the father's side would raise them to a certain year. And my mother would take up, because she's a disciplinarian, she was a teacher, she's retired now, she would take up another part where they needed to get disciplined. And the father would pick them at some point. They did not need me. Nobody needed me. I was not needed. I can go away. I can disappear. Then I go to the office and everything is all over the place. It's the mishahara I'm waiting for. It's the one that is supporting the bills. Oh my God, something had to give. The day I woke up and I said, I'm choosing me. Unfortunately, my marriage had to give. And he's a wonderful gentleman. But not for me. And it is okay. Because if I didn't do that, I would have accepted to be done away with. And I would have done away with myself. When I think about it, my God, I wouldn't change the life we have had since with my daughters. It has been tough. There are days I thought many things, but here we are. We look back and go like, ha! There's a time we didn't even have milk. We couldn't afford milk. Thank you, are luxury. Children are going to school on a koroga and cocoa. You know? Because there is bread, you make a sandwich. With whatever you'll pack on it. Tomato sandwich, anything. It is a sandwich. And so that it can look cute, you catch the edges like this and you make something beautiful and you pack it. But you know what? If we did not have these stories, we wouldn't be standing here this minute, this hour. Unfortunately, with the bad experiences, I believe we were in our line of purpose. Because somebody who's listening right now, you are meant to listen to this message. Because you need to snatch yourself from those thoughts. You need to snatch yourself from what you're about to do. You matter for somebody. You matter for yourself. I can't imagine having missed the milestones in my daughter's lives. I can't imagine missing out that I could be a CEO in a company. Me, Wanjiku, from the village. I couldn't imagine that I call myself blessed. I call myself smart when the voices in my upbringing told me, you're not smart. You're not beautiful. You're not beautiful. You're not good enough. There are others who are better than you. Oh my God. I am enough as myself. And I remember in my 30s when I wanted to give up again. I had forgotten who I was. And I couldn't tell myself who I am. I went back to the Bible. And I started calling myself everything, the word of God. God calls me. Because you all know that if a woman is divorced, or if she has children and she's not married, she's called all manner of names. Now, for every woman who's listening, you are the righteousness of God.
Amen to that.
And if anybody else tells you anything otherwise, repeat it to yourself in front of a mirror. Look at yourself. Call yourself by name. Wanjiku, you're the righteousness of God. You think you're not beautiful. What does the Bible say about beauty? Beauty from ash. I feel like dancing now. I am
enough.
I am enough.
I am enough.
I am enough.
And I'm a mental health advocate. Tukutane Skiza. Let's have this conversation.